On January 28th, a top-secret memo of the U.S. Air Force was leaked on social media. In this memo, four-star Air Force General Mike Minnie Hahn, while commanding his troops to be war-ready, said that a war is going to take place between the U.S. and China in 2025. In this leaked document, there is also a document of war preparation, which tells that the U.S. is almost war-ready. All American soldiers have received orders from the U.S. Air Force General to be war-ready. And the U.S. government has also passed the highest defense budget of the U.S. till date for this war. But wait, China is also not behind in all this. It is preparing a battalion of its special kill-proof super soldiers to give a befitting reply to America. But why is all this so heated up? Do you know what is the biggest reason for the possibility of war in these two countries? Well, Taiwan. This is because in 2024, presidential elections are going to be held in both these countries, US and Taiwan. Now this will mean that, while on one hand the US will be distracted in its internal matters, on the other hand this will be the best time for China to make a full-fledged invasion of Taiwan, which will automatically drag the US into this war. So the thing is something like this. In 1979, the US signed a treaty with Taiwan called Taiwan Relations Act, under which the US has committed to support Taiwan militarily. Using this treaty as a backing, recently, US President Joe Biden has also said that if China tries to invade Taiwan, then China will get an answer from the US. That too, by giving full military support to Taiwan. Now, the result of this assertive statement is that China is now threatening to surrender Taiwanese openly by sending fighter jets into the airspace. And they are also coming in such a frequency and creating nuisance. Now, due to this fear, Taiwan is also increasing its forces and is extending the compulsory military service from 4 months to 1 year. But seeing this increasing military aggression of China, the Taiwanese president has understood that the end is going to happen soon. And that is why, recently for the first time in history, the Taiwanese president has gone on a US visit. This time to seek their support in the war. For which, by the way, China has also strictly one-upped Taiwan. But this is the turning point. In fact, the US and China have also started war preparations. The US has made its first-level attack intelligence gathering, for which it is tapping the satellite phones of Chinese diplomats. For this, the US has also planned bugs or microphones in the Chinese embassy located inside Washington so that they can then bring to intercept sensitive information shared between the Beijing Foreign Ministry and the Chinese embassy in Washington. The US has also set up information intercepting bases in places like Australia, New Zealand, and Japan to keep track of everything China does. Also, the US is also extracting information through conventional mode. In this, some US companies are carrying out this crime with the help of the government, especially companies like Leral and Hughes, which have contracts with the Chinese government, are passing on efficient information to the US government, and are also bribing Chinese citizens to the US. Information is being extracted from them, like Sunbo, who is the general manager of a Chinese shipyard company, has been accused of committing a crime. But apart from all these fronts, the US has made strong preparations on other fronts as well. The US is now surrounding China from all sides. The US has signed a security pact with the Philippines, a country located exactly opposite to China and the closest to the US, under which if the Philippines is ever attacked, the US will provide military support to it. And in return for this help, the US has taken control of these strategic ports and bases of the Philippines, in which the US has got 3 more new bases. And this time, these 3 bases are at very strategic locations. One is very close to the South China Sea, and the other 2 are very close to Taiwan. And in this way, today 400 US naval bases have completely surrounded China in the Indo-Pacific region. In total, more than 3 lakh war-ready troops are deployed in these bases. And talking about the US Navy, so 60% of their Navy operates in the Pacific region alone, which means that as soon as the war starts, the US Navy can directly attack China, and recently, by the way, they have given a hint of this by conducting the biggest military exercise of recent times in collaboration with South Korea. Now, if we talk about the Chinese side, they are no less war-ready. They have also made a very smart plan to trap the US in their own trap. So as I said, China is also trapping the US in its own trap. It has turned the US's tactics on itself. So the thing is that by the year 2020, China had hired 162 top US scientists by giving them a grant of $1 million, because these are those scientists, those who have all the sensitive and restricted information of the US nuclear program, end quotes. Now, all this information and secrets of the US being with China means that the neck of the US is in the hands of China. China also got the spying done in the Taiwanese military. In the last 10 years only, 21 senior Taiwanese military officers were issued notices for spying. Over here, so many were caught. Now you can imagine how many would be there who are still roaming freely. By getting these agents filtered, China is keeping an eye on every move of the US and Taiwan. But apart from this, China is also using other majors, like it has also fully used its space capabilities. In the last 2 years only, China has doubled its satellite count and has also increased the advancements in them rapidly. Just look at this. This is China's TJS-3 satellite, which has been sent in the name of Communication Experiment Satellite. But just a few days after takeoff, it is surveying American satellites only. These are the same satellites. These are the ones which support the secret military communications of USA. And if we talk about this hidden survey, then recently the warships of China and Russia were spotted keeping a secret watch on the oil-rich region of Alaska in USA. So basically, China is doing tit for tat. China, along with its allies, is keeping an eye on every move of the US. By the way, China has also been aware of this war for the last 8 years, and that is why it has increased its defense budget so much for 8 consecutive years, due to which its main benefit has been to its military advancements. Its best example is railguns. These guns run on electromagnetic energy, which is 7 times faster than the speed of sound. With this, a target even 200 kilometers away will be hit accurately in a fraction of a second. But China's advancement is not limited to this. According to the top intelligence official of the US itself, China is now also developing super soldiers. These soldiers will have biologically enhanced capabilities, such as they will have the strength to lift huge weights, run at high speeds, and even be able to see clearly in any dark terrain with infrared night vision. But China has not paid attention to this front only. It knows very well that the war will be fought on the sea or even on water. And that is why it has invested so heavily in its navy, that today China's navy is the largest navy in the world. And in comparison to the US, China has 25 more battleships. Now this will be a huge advantage for China, and China will have this. Advantage was needed at any cost because, as you knew earlier, the US has surrounded China from all sides through sea routes. To counter the US strategy, China also made a security pact with Solomon Islands, under which China will now place its ships at the ports of those islands as well. China also has naval presence at many ports like this, which will counter the US bases in wartime. China has also formed its anti-US team at the international level, whose main members are Russia, Iran, and North Korea, who will be the first to stand against the US in case of a war. And this has been accepted by the US intelligence report itself. But there is also a master move, which is to open ports into the US. These ports are being used mainly for intelligence gathering and militarization, with the help of which China can harm the US whenever it wants. And that is why the US is also having to think 100 times before making its next move. So looking at the preparations of both the countries, this prediction does not seem wrong at all, that the situation has started getting tense, and if this war starts, it will be majorly due to China's invasion of Taiwan. Whenever China attacks Taiwan, the US will have to stand in support of Taiwan, and all these strategic structures can suddenly catapult. And if these two largest economies of the world are seen fighting on the battlefield, then they will also take their allies with them. And to what extent the situation can escalate, you can only imagine now. By the way, there is a good chance that the battleground will be the South China Sea, which holds 60% of the world GDP. By the way, and just to give you a perspective, if the global economy has been disrupted to such an extent in a war like Russia-Ukraine that many countries have gone into recession, then just think what will happen during this war. But the irony is that for which the war will start, i.e. for Taiwan, an opposition party of the same country, KMT, is now thinking about its own benefit, keeping aside the national issues. Now the job of an opposition party is to stop the ruling party if it goes in the wrong direction from national interest, right? To hold it accountable. But there are some parties that have to fulfill their personal interests instead of fulfilling national interest. And that is why Taiwan's former Prime Minister Ma Ju, who was recently elected from this party, went to visit China. So, what I mean to say is that it is quite possible that some pro-China sentiments have started developing in Taiwan as well. So according to you, will this have any impact on the war? Can a war between USA and China really be possible? Do tell us in the comments what is your opinion about it.